Okay, this is the third problem looking at calculating variance. We're going to do this both the long and the short way, and I'm going to show you how to calculate the sum of squares, the variance, and the standard deviation. So let's just assume, so that this data has some context and that it makes sense, let's assume that we asked 6 students in our class how many hours they were spending on their online work. I know everybody's so busy right now with online work. Let's assume we asked our students to report how many hours they're spending on online work every week. All right, and let's assume that their answers were 20, 26, 30, 30, 28, and 40. So first we're going to do this the long way. So remember, anytime you see a column of data, the first thing you're going to do is get the sum, the n, and the mean. And I already did this, so the sum for this column is 174. N in this problem is 6, and the mean, 174 divided by 6, I had this work out to an even number, it's 29. So remember, what we're going to do now is we're going to take that 29 and we're going to transfer it into the second column, which is labeled y bar. All right, so next to each one of these y's, we are going to put the mean of y bar. We don't need to do anything to summarize. In our third column, we're going to take each score and subtract each mean. So for each one of these 6 rows, we're going to take the score and subtract the mean. So I'm going to fill out the work on this first line. 20 minus 29 is -9. All right, I'm not going to fill out the work for the rest, but I am going to walk you through it. So 26 minus 29 is -3. 30 minus 29 is +1. 30 minus 29 is +1. 28 minus 29 is -1. And 40 minus 29 is 11. So we're going to add up the numbers in this column. -9 minus 3 plus 1 plus 1 minus 1 plus 11 equals 0. And remember, the sum of the deviations should always equal 0. The last thing we're going to do in this chart is we are going to square those deviations. So every number that we calculated in this third column, we're going to square. -9 squared is +81. Remember, any number squared is positive, so you should not be transferring any negative numbers over there. -3 squared is +9. 1 squared is 1. 1 squared is 1. -1 squared is +1. And 11 squared is 121. So when we add up all the numbers in that column, we get 214, which is our sum of squares. Just to check this, doing it using the shortcut formula. Here's the shortcut formula. The shortcut formula for sum of squares is the sum of the y squareds minus the sum of the y squared divided by n. So remember, for the first part of this formula, we're going to take each one of these y's, square them, and add them up. So we have 20 squared plus 26 squared plus 30 squared plus 30 squared plus 28 squared plus 40 squared. We are going to subtract the sum of the y's, which is 29. I'm sorry, the sum of the y's, which is 174. We are going to square that and divide by n, which is 6. I'm running out of room here. So when we do the math on this, when you add up all of these numbers squared, you get 5,260. When you take 174 squared and divide it by 6, you get 5,046. And 5,260 minus 5,046 is 214, which is the same number we got when we did it the long way. All right, so in the real world, you can do it either way. In this class, especially on an exam, I'm going to tell you for a specific problem whether I want it to do whether I want you to do it one way or another. All right, either way, once we get the sum of squares, we are ready to calculate the variance. So remember, variance is defined as the sum of squares divided by the degrees of freedom, which for now is the sum of squares divided by n minus 1. So we're just going to plug in these numbers. Our sum of squares is 214. Our n is 6. So 214 divided by 6 minus 1 is 42.8. So our variance for this problem is 42.8. Standard deviation is defined as the square root of the variance. And so we are going to plug 42.8 into this formula. So the standard deviation is the square root of 42.8, which is 6.54. All right, so that's it. Variance and standard deviation using the long and short way from start to finish.